Welcome all for the mobile app development lab. Today we are going to continue with the third program, which is in sign up activity, where we use a username and a password to sign up, and when we are an authorized user, it should proceed with the next activity. This is what our third program is, and we'll see what all the functions we have in that application. So first is sign up activity. Here we are going to create an sign up activity where we use the credentials such as username and password. So once if it confirms that we are an authorized user, it should let us to the next event. And this validation of password should have the four specific rules over here. First is the password should contain both the uppercase and lowercase. As we do when we log in, when we give one password, we have certain conditions over the password where that is given displayed. Similarly, even here we have a few conditions, that is password should contain both the uppercase and the lowercase letters. Then it should contain letters and number. It should have a combinations of letters and numbers, and it should have at least one special characters, and we have a minimum specification of the password. Minimum length of the password should be 8. Okay, this is what the conditions we have to create a password. So it should check even that. It has to check whether the password is valid or what. If it is valid, it has to proceed with the authentication, or it should give the command what has been missing over there. Okay, this is what the first sign up activity we have. So once the sign up activity, when it identifies that the user is an authorized user, it has to proceed with the next step. Okay, so on the successful sign up, we are going to proceed with the login activity. In the login activity, again you will be giving user has to give the username and password, and we have to give a sign up activity over there. And again, when it has been authenticated, it has to proceed with the next one. That is, it has to display that the successful login, or it has to display that you have failed, or your login has been failed. And this can be done only in 2 attempts. As we have seen the security concerns, the number of trials what we do here, we are limiting it into 2 attempts. The third attempt, it has to authenticate within 2 attempts. If not, it will be disabling your sign in button. If it is not authenticating within 2 attempts, and when it has more than 2 failure attempts, then the sign in button has to be disabled. Okay, and this is how we are going to implement our application. Okay, so for sign up activity and login activity, so sign up you are giving username and password, and login activity we are going first to sign up is the initial process where we design and we log into an credential, and login activity, once it has been confirmed already the username and password has been given, it should navigate us to the next part, that is login activity. So now we are going to develop an application to perform the same task. First is sign up activity and the login activity. If the sign up activity has been completed, it has to navigate to the login activity. For the new users, it has to go with the sign up activity, and the password, it has certain features that is, it should have the combinations of numerals and words, and it has to have a special character, and the minimum length of your password should be 8. So it has to check for all those conditions, and once it is when it satisfies all the condition, it has to approve it. Once it is approved, it has to go to the next process of login activity. Again, you will be giving a username and password over there. When it identifies you are an authorized user, it has to navigate, or it has to give you the message that authentication fail or login fail, and it can allow at most of only 2 attempts. We will see what are the steps involved to do this application, create this application. As usual, we will be going with an Android. Open the Android Studio, go with the new Android project, choose an empty activity over there, open activity main XML file in that, and go to the layout folder, and in the main activity file, give the code, go with the default code, and alter the code as per the requirement of our application. This is the second step. And third step, we are going to create a design the layout where we have a sign up activity, and we have a drag and drop framework here. Since it is sign in and sign in activity, login and username and password, we need a buttons over there. So we created a sign up layout over there. And next again we have one more activity, because since it is login activity, when it is authenticated we proceed with the next activity. So we create a template for this. Okay, then we'll be opening this in an activity login XML file and to create the root view. So only when you do this you will be able to interact, convert your application into an executable form. Okay, again we'll be using drag and drop framework for the buttons what we are going to use: login, sign up and login. For a sign up we have again username and password. For that we need a button, click event. So we use a listen and add listener to enable your buttons when you click. So if you give a login, it has to be enabled. For that we use an listener button, and we create a class to implement this on click interface, listener interface and on click method. We create a class over to that, and whenever a button is clicked, it has to go with the operations what it has to be done. Okay, so next we have the we use regular expressions. Since it is a username and a password, and we have already given a specification for a password, and we define that specification. So we are giving it as use regular expression, and what are all the symbols we have, what are all the uppercase we have, what are the lower case we have, what are the special characters we have, everything it has to be defined to validate your password. So the main first as usual will go with an activity main file, XML file, where you give the basic layout of your program. So you have a default code over there, and only with this, when you give this, your program will be code will be converted to executable form, and you can run your application. So as per your requirement, you will be changing all your height, width, specification you will be changing. Okay, next what we have all the sign up activity and login activity. For that button we are adjusting the text. What are the text view, what is the width of your text, what is the height of the text, what is the margin of the text, everything in the default code we will be altering it as per our specification. These are all the text view. And next we have an edit view. So when you enter an input, and that input when you need to edit it, we need to design that even. So for that we give an edit text. Okay, where you can delete and where you can add an other. When your password goes wrong, when you go with the second attempt, you will be trying with the next set of data. So for that we need an edit text, and for that edit text again you are giving the specification of width, height, margins, where it has to start, where it has to end. Everything will be giving that in the edit text. Okay, again the buttons, what is sign in, login, sign up, all these buttons you are going to define, and you are going to give the features of all those buttons. And the button specification on the click, what is the logic we are going to use over there. If it is a click, we are going to set it as true. Okay, that we give it an activity login XML. Okay, only when you are going to when it identifies you are an authorized user, it has to proceed with the next page. So that we give it an activity login XML file, where you give the credentials. When the credentials is been approved, you can go with the carry out. It should navigate to the next page, or it should display the message over there. And here regarding the number of attempts, even you give that data using a text view. So you give a password over there, and what is the specification of that password you give it, and when you're authorized user, it has to navigate to the next page. So you use all this button and define each and every button with all the features. Then again we come to the main activity file, where you import all the packages what is needed to run your file. Then you go with the main function, where you declare a class over there, and what are the functions. So your username, password has to be validated. So you give that over here, and what are all the expressions you're going to use, how do you validate your password, everything you're going to define in this code. This is what all about your login activity. Okay, in login activity again you will define what all the buttons you have here, and what are all the packages you need to execute those buttons. You give it in this activity and you code that. and on click, when you click on button, what it is supposed to display, you give that in the sign up activity. This is all about your app, what you're going to develop. And this, when you execute it, you will get a sample output where you have a sign in and login. So when in sign up activity, it will be checking for the first user who's going to use it. When they're going to go with the first time when they want to log in, they'll go with the sign up activity. And login activity, the registered user who has already registered, can you go with the login activity. So this is what the output we get when we execute the program in the using Android Studio. Thank you all.